St. Croix Votes, Meet Your Candidates on CHCO Television is brought to you by the St. Stephen Area Chamber of Commerce and by the Town of St. Stephen, the St. Croix Courier, and by the St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening and welcome to this Meet Your Candidates event for the St. Croix riding. Welcome to the candidates themselves and to the viewers at home. We've been able to gather the 5 candidates here tonight, but are of course following government-mandated COVID-19 restrictions, and our candidates are seated 2 meters apart. For those who don't know me, my name is Sarah Conley. I'm a small business owner in St. Croix, and I'm also the current president of the St. Stephen Area Chamber of Commerce. Before I introduce the candidates, the partner organizations who put this event together would like to thank a few people. Thank you to the Town of St. Stephen, and specifically for the use of the Garceland Civic Center tonight as our venue. Thank you to Mike Corbett for being our MC. Thank you to Heather Donahue from the BIA for being our timer, and thank you to CHCO-TV for the production team. There are a few partner organizations that have put this event together. The Town of St. Stephen, St. Stephen Area Chamber of Commerce, St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce, the St. Croix Courier and Courier Weekend, and CHCO-TV. So it is now my pleasure to introduce the candidates tonight. We have Kathy Baucus, representing the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick. Rod Cumberland, representing the People's Alliance of New Brunswick. John Gardner, representing the Liberal Party. Brad McKinney, representing New Brunswick New Democrat Party. And Kim Reeder, representing the Green Party of New Brunswick. I feel like these candidates kind of take involvement in the community to the next level. Putting your name on the ballot, just making a commitment to represent the needs and wants of the people in this beautiful part of New Brunswick. And as on behalf of the chamber members, I would like to express my genuine appreciation for putting your name down, for showing up for us tonight, and I wish each one of you the very best of luck. I'd like to now introduce Alan McEachern, the mayor of the Town of St. Stephen.
Welcome, everyone. I would like to welcome all the candidates for putting their names forward to be elected and take on this important role for our riding. We are so looking forward to having an MLA that represents this area and is accountable for this area and play an active role in our riding. One of you will be our MLA soon, and I encourage you to work with the municipal leaders and the federal leaders, no matter what your party is. Also, I'd like to encourage you to work with the leaders in our riding that have no title. There's many of them here, and they're movers and shakers, and they know how to get things done, and they'll be gladly to be part of your team. And they have a lot to offer. And of course, we're all in this together. So thank you, and have good luck tonight to all of you.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. We're on to the hard part, the reason why that we're all here, and that is to have an opportunity to share your message, to talk about yourself, to talk about your party, and to talk about the things that are important to you. So the event is going to be actually more of a get to know your candidates night, more so than a traditional political debate. So there will be no name calling, there will be no nastiness. This is going to be a smooth, fun, and enjoyable opportunity for you to be able to talk about yourself and your party. So what's going to happen is the rules of the evening are each candidate is going to have 3 minutes for an opening statement. And we're going to be going in the order in which we've set up the tables in the background. So each of you are going to get 3 minutes for opening, and then we're going to go through a series of questions. The amount of questions will depend upon the amount of time that it takes to answer. Each candidate will be asked the exact same question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. So what's going to happen is at the end of your 1 minute, you will hear a bell. Wrap your sentence up. That's the key. Otherwise, it'll be ended for you. So very smooth. Again, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a great opportunity for the community to be able to get to hear about you and to get to know you a bit better in a way in these strange days you might not be able to. As mentioned, we are respecting at all times the 2-meter rule, and we're going to get started immediately. So here's the order in which we're going to be going in. So we're going to be starting with Kathy, and then Rod, and then John, and then Brad, and then Kim. So that's going to be the order of opening. When we close, it's going to go the opposite way. It's going to go Kim, Brad, John, Rod, close with Kim. With Kathy. So that's the order in which we're going to be going in. We're going to go up for opening, back for closing, and then each person is going to have a chance to answer a question once. You'll be the first to answer it, and then there will be an opportunity for you to answer last each time. So the speed in which you respect the timeline is key, so we can get through as many questions as possible so the viewers at home can really get to know you. So as mentioned before, you will hear a bell. That is your time up. So let's get started right away. Kathy, you are our first speaker. You have 3 minutes opening statement starting now.
Thank you, Mike. Now more than ever, New Brunswick needs the strong and steady leadership of Blaine Higgs. I'm Kathy Bacchus, and I'm asking you to trust me with your vote in the upcoming election. I'm asking for the great honor of working for you and representing you in Fredericton. Listening to people and helping them with their issues is something I've done all my life. I'm a member of this community, a volunteer, a journalist, and I was a constituency assistant to the late Greg Thompson. It was in this last role I gained extensive experience helping people navigate government to find solutions to their problems. I'm asking for the opportunity to continue to put that experience to work for you. Because of COVID-19, we find ourselves in situations like no other, but we are strong and resilient, and it shows. New Brunswick is leading the way in economic recovery. Businesses and jobs must remain viable in our region and our province to enable people to support their families. We need the leadership of Blaine Higgs to continue that economic recovery and steer our province through this next phase. And we need someone like me to represent you. Someone like me who has worked with and challenged all levels of government. We have many issues facing us in this riding: employment loss, affordable housing, food security, care for seniors, transportation and environmental concerns. None of them will be solved overnight, but with your vote, I will work relentlessly to address each and every one of them. My educational background includes successful graduation from what I call the Sink or Swim School of Journalism. I began my working career at the Telegraph-Journal 3 days after graduation from Hampton Consolidated School. I've lived in St. Stephen for the past 24 years with my husband. Walter and I will celebrate our 45th anniversary in mid-September. We have 2 children, and our family has grown to include 7 grandkids. We live on a hobby farm in Leverville, just outside St. Stephen, with a big dog, a pony, several beehives, and a flock of wild turkeys who regularly stroll down our driveway because they think they own the place. When we first moved to St. Stephen, I worked to resurrect the farmers market, hosting it in the space now occupied by Chocolate Park. I was the first executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Charlotte County, helping to create that group for the benefit of area families. I currently serve on the organizational board of the Charlotte County Fall Fair. In my role as a reporter and editor, I help spread awareness of community issues, school events, festivals, fairs, municipal plans, special projects, fundraising events by service groups, and share the news of accomplishments by your friends and neighbors. I am one of you. And please know, despite what you may have heard, our hospital is not under any threat of closure or reduction of services, just the opposite. If re-elected, the government intends to ask the local board to create a 10-year strategic plan for this hospital. If I can make one promise to you all, it is that I will do my very best to represent your interests and continue to move our region forward in the years to come. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Rod, you have 3 minutes.
Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that a year ago we lost a great statesman in Greg Thompson. I'd like to acknowledge his contributions to our area and his commitment to public life. I'm Rod Cumberland, and I'm the son of Dale and Nellie Cumberland of Mayfield, where I grew up. I have a bachelor's degree from UNB in forestry, and I've worked for the Department of Natural Resources as a wildlife biologist for 22 years. I was an instructor at the Forestry College for the last 7 years, and recently I'm the sole proprietor of a small business selling quality axe handles worldwide. Although I played basketball for St. Stephen High School, the Spartans, and softball in a local softball league, most know me as a lumberjack competitor at the annual St. Stephen Lumberjack Contest. Just last year, we celebrated our 25th anniversary at the Ganong Nature Park. I'm also a national coach for Canada at the World Championships. You may have seen me hosting Lumberjacks TV as a co-host that's aired on TSN and also most recently broadcast on CHCO-TV. I've never really been a political person or involved much in provincial politics. Most find this very refreshing. But recently, I've seen a need for change. One thing I've heard repeatedly that needs changing is how we are represented. Tonight, some will promote how they will bring Fredericton to our area, whether it's their leader, their policies, or their ideas. However, I'm convinced what our riding is looking for is someone willing and able to take our issues and our concerns to Fredericton. I encourage you to listen to what each person has to say. Who is bringing Fredericton here, and who is taking St. Croix to Fredericton? This is why, rather than making hollow promises or buying votes, I'm asking people what they think. What are their concerns? That's what real representation looks like. My entire career, I've worked in customer service, researching and analyzing and then making a wise decision based on the facts. All my life, I've been the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I've worked at everything from raking blueberries in Tower Hill to shoveling manure and milking a cow for our family, up to making presentations at Cabinet and also in the legislature. I've been a keynote speaker at many international events around the world. Recently, I saw the New Brunswick tourism bus in St. Andrews with a large painting of the province on the side of it, promoting attractions to visit. I was surprised to see that our corner of the province had nothing in it. No major highways, no attractions. It was a black hole. This is where we are at currently after years of doing things the same way over and over again. It's time for change. It's time to do things differently. It's time to put St. Croix back on the map. In St. Croix, we're not voting for a leader or a spouse or the MLA next door. We're voting for a person that's here tonight that can best represent St. Croix and put us back on that map. I'd like to thank the local chambers of commerce as well as CHCO-TV for this, hosting this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Rod. John, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Opportunity not just to speak to you tonight or to put my name on a ballot, but to continue doing what I've been doing for a number of years as a volunteer, standing up for you and this riding. My background is mainly in tourism, but I've had a few other careers as well, including journalism, listening to people, hearing what you have to say, taking those concerns and fighting for them. Now, a lot of people are wondering why it is that after some of the things that I have done in my past, I would be running for the Liberal Party when the last time you heard from me, I was actually standing up against them. It's because when Kevin Vickers came to this riding to ask me to run, the first thing I told him was, I'm not a Liberal. I'm from St. Croix. I'm going to represent St. Croix. His response was, welcome to the team. People really need to know that, and I'm really hearing that we are not represented. We have not been represented since the untimely passing of our representative, Greg Thompson. Now, some of the other ridings have, kind of pitched in and said that they're helping out, but in the truth, we only had one vote, and we didn't have that. All I'm asking for you to do is remember what it is that I fought for all of these years in healthcare and other charities, other events in the community, and send me to Fredericton to represent you, because that's what it's really about. It's about the riding. It's not about me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
St. Croix. I was looking at the light, sorry. St. Croix. My name is Brad McKinney, and I represent the New Democratic Party of New Brunswick. So I was born and raised here in the area, which means that I was born in St. John. but born and raised here, because they took away the. This is going well. Sorry, yeah. We're not going to edit this. That's okay. So born and raised. Sorry. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton. And that got me as far as right back to the Superstore, where I worked for another 4 years before I decided to take another route. I moved to Fredericton, and I volunteered with the New Democratic Party of New Brunswick for the campaign there. And I worked out of provincial office, and I became the lead canvasser for the leader of the party. And I knocked on 2,500 doors in 10 days. And we can't do that this time because it's not safe to knock on someone's door. Germs, people. Gotta have sanitizer. So then in 2015, I went on to be the one that trained the canvassers because they could still go knock on doors. We can't do that now. So I had 100 people that I had to train, and my political science degree worked a little bit with that, but I mainly learned it on the ground running, talking to the people of the area. Just like I've talked to the people here in St. Stephen since I started working in retail, at least 2009. Over a decade ago, I started working in retail, and I've been in the customer service field ever since. As I already mentioned, worked at Superstore for a little while, and I met you. I probably scanned your groceries. I probably filled your prescriptions. I probably put corn out there so you could rip off the husk and just throw it on the ground. But I cleaned it up because that's what you do, and that's what I look to do here for the province, for the riding to be in Fredericton, representing St. Croix. Sorry, I also have a certificate in barbering, which I now use with Off the Top Barbershop, 34 Pleasant Street, in St. Stephen. I'm a small business owner, obviously, and I also work at a financial institution. I work 2 jobs. I work 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then I also work on Saturdays because people can't run away during their 9 to 5 to get a haircut during the week. They got to come on the weekend. I'm excited for this opportunity, and I look forward to talking to you more. Hopefully, I'll stammer less.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Kim Reeder of Bocabec, and I'm offering you, the residents of St. Croix, my service. I'm offering you my skills. I am offering you my passion. However, I am not asking you to blindly trust me. I'm suggesting instead that you examine my reputation in the community. Investigate my ability to complete competing tasks on time, in budget. And finally, I'm suggesting that you ask your neighbors, ask your friends and family about my dedication to listening, hearing, and considering perspectives that are different than my own. I will make one ask of you, however. I will ask you to vote in this election not strategically, not against something or someone, but for the candidate who represents the best future for our riding in the critical and interrelated areas of health, environment, and the economy. Over recent months, our lives have changed in ways we never could have imagined, but we've adapted. We have faced these challenges head on, not that we had a lot of choice, but with the election around the corner, you do have a choice. You can express your choice, your vision of the future. As a community, we can choose to do things differently. And in this riding has an extra special opportunity. No other party in St. Croix has both a candidate and a party leader who have lived and actively contributed to community for over 2 decades. Think of what that could mean for this place. The Green Party leader, David Kuhn, has experienced and understands the St. Croix riding. Before we begin with questions this evening, which I am looking forward to, there is one major issue which I cannot avoid, so I'm putting it right up front. The full and proven intention of the Higgs government was to shut down rural emergency health care. The fact is, he tried it once. Can you trust that he will not try it again? The St. Croix riding can choose dignity, compassion, and dedication in leadership by choosing the Green Party and myself for St. Croix, Kim Reeder. I want to thank the community for listening with open minds and open hearts. I want to thank all the folks that have worked so hard to pull this together tonight, make it a reality. My running mates, of course, who continue these ongoing and critical community conversations. Thanks, everyone, for stepping up.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. So now we're going to get to the fun part of the evening. This is the question period. It's going to be a very quick event. You've got literally 1 minute to answer each question. The more questions we get through, the better the community is going to get to know you. So this is an opportunity for you to shine, for you to get your message of both yourself and your party out there to the community. So nobody here has heard the questions before. These have been provided by the community. Of course, because of COVID-19, these things had to be emailed, faxed, and mailed into the Chamber of Commerce office. So the questions have been prepared by the community and will be presented in the following manner. So based upon the order in which we spoke, which was Kathy, Rod, John, Brad, and then Kim, we're now going to start our questions with next in line, which will be Rod. So Rod will get a chance to answer this question first, and then Rod will have a chance to answer a question last as well as we proceed through the rotation. So as mentioned before a couple of times now, we are respecting the 2-meter rule, and you'll notice that the podium is being cleaned down in between each speaker each time. So we're being extremely careful, and thank you to everyone for being as conscious of that as you have been so far. So let's get right down to the fun part. You've got 1 minute each. Rod, we're going to start with you, so if you could head over to the podium now. The very first question of the evening is, and by the way, sorry, I will make sure that everybody gets to hear the question each time, so you don't worry about it. You'll definitely it'll be mentioned to you again. So the very first question, starting with Rod, is COVID-19 has had a huge effect on the lives of all people. Why are you and your party the best choice to lead us through these strange days?
Well, I think it's a great question. COVID is on everyone's minds right now. And I think if you look at how New Brunswick has handled COVID, what most people appreciate is that it was handled collectively. It was a team effort. Even though some people may want to take credit for it, there were 7 people in a COVID committee. 4 of them were our provincial leaders, and everyone likes how we responded. We actually lead the world in how we addressed it. And of course, that was because it was done cooperatively. So as far as I'm concerned, I think what public wants to see is more of that, more good cooperation, more collaborating and getting along, and our party is all about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. So John, the question for you, COVID-19 has had a huge effect on the lives of all people. Why are you and your party the best choice to lead us through these strange days?
To be honest, I'm going to agree with Rod. We've had a response that has been unified. It has been across party lines. It has been working together. The all-party committee has been the real reason why we've been able to handle COVID. The other thing that really has helped is that the public, you, the viewers, you, the constituents, have been cooperating. You've been working together. You've been respecting each other. That's made the difference. Not the party, not the politicians. Thank you.
So Brad, you will be next with the question, COVID-19 has had a huge effect on the lives of all people. Why are you and your party the best choice to lead us through these strange days?
Strange days indeed. The New Brunswick, we have too many news in the name. The NDP has seen this as a reset, if you will, for the province. We're all starting fresh. We're all in this together. We're all trying to. I touched the microphone. We're all trying to get through things together in a way that we've never had to before. And something I'd like to address now is the proper way to wear a mask, because that's the most important way to protect against COVID. So first of all, clean hands, and then you'll just put it on, only touch it by the ear loops, and then you'll pinch it over your nose. And then when you're done with it, well, first of all, while you're wearing it, don't touch it. That's where the virus lives, right? So don't touch it there. And then when you're done with it, when you get home, then you just sanitize your hands again, and then you pull it off by the loops. And what I've learned lately that's very important, you have to tear these off because little seagulls can get tied up in it, and that's not good.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, COVID-19 has had a huge effect on the lives of all people. Why are you and your party the best choice to lead us through these strange days?
Thank you, Mike. We are a good choice to lead through these strange days because we are the only party committed to placing the well-being of people and communities at the heart of government decisions, while also protecting the natural environment that we all utterly depend on. We've realized that COVID has not only shown weaknesses, but it has shone light on opportunities for new conversations. And we are willing to listen to all the people with all the perspectives and bring those into one conversation for our path forward. Thank you.
Kathy, lastly to you. COVID-19 has had a huge effect on the lives of all people. Why are you and your party the best choice to lead us through these strange days?
Thank you, Mike. I tend to agree with two of my colleagues here. I think the All-Party Committee has done wonderfully, but I want to remind people that it was led by Blaine Higgs, and he has been primarily focused on public safety. I think Dr. Russell has done a fabulous job leading us and providing the information to guide us safely. The public has cooperated, and I think that's why we're all here today in the state that we're in, the envy of the rest of Canada and perhaps the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. On to question 2. So as Rod started the last question, this one will be started by John. So the next question we're moving on to deals with debt levels. So the question is, what is your party's plan to deal with the massive debt position in our province?
The economy is, of course, important to the Liberal Party of New Brunswick. There's a couple of different things that we're looking at. One is governance. We have the government being itself one of the largest employers, and it's top-heavy. We need to look at how we can work with government, cut through some of the fat, and make that work a lot easier. We need to grow the economy. There's a lot of companies here in this riding that are innovative and are really coming into the forefront, not just locally, but in the world. We need to encourage those businesses. We need to create more well-paying jobs here in the riding. We also need to grow our population, and that's something that's happening. I was in Macadam just this morning, and I was noticing a 20% increase in population. That's good for our economy, because that means more people are working. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Nextly, we're going to go to Brad now. Brad, what is your party's plan to deal with the massive debt position in our province?
Massive debt. The massive debt. Well, to grow the debt, like my colleague here, Mr. Gardner, has pointed out, that to grow the debt, you need to create jobs, and a great way to really motivate people to join the workplace and to get excited about it would be the minimum wage to be raised to $15 an hour, and that would be slowly transitioned over the next 4 years, just so that small businesses can adjust and get ready and be prepared for that sort of a jump. Debt is something that will always happen in a pandemic, of course, because like like there's no economy really. So the best way that we can approach it is to just move forward, and that's what I've got. Okay, thank you.
Kim, what is your party's plan to deal with the massive debt position in our province?
Mike, I think this is linked to also good governance and good process. And unfortunately, our two mainstream parties have not been providing this, which is part of the reason we are in this position. So in our recovery for COVID, we need to focus on some of these structural problems that create debt. We need to be thinking about innovation. One thing we really don't need to do is invest in pie in the sky energy products and different investments that will not be helping us. Instead, use shovel-ready projects like the solar and wind. We can get New Brunswickers with these access to these on their homes with incentive programs like we used to have. And this type of activity will create jobs now, not 15 years down the road. They can happen now, and they can happen based on our people and our assets.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, you're up next. What is your party's plan to deal with the massive debt position in our province?
Thank you, Mike. As far as I know, the party's plan is to continue as it has been. We obviously have a massive debt now from COVID-19. We were in a surplus position. But if we can encourage innovative ideas and small businesses. We've already set up the Navigator program, which provides a framework of support for small businesses. We're looking into new technology, like the small modular nuclear reactors, which would encourage skilled workers to come to New Brunswick, in addition to the ones that we already have. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for us to grow the economy by supporting businesses in this post-pandemic or continued pandemic situation.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, lastly, what is your party's plan to deal with the massive debt position in our province?
Thanks for the question. Money's fairly simple. There's money coming in and money going out, and you'd balance a budget the debt load the same way you'd handle your own finances. If we look at this at a provincial level, though, of course, it's a bigger kettle of fish. First of all, we need to continue to offer balanced budgets, and that's why our party is supporting the PC party these last 2 years. We need to put an end to corporate welfare. Providing billionaires money to continue with their business isn't a wise move. There's many places to save money. We have a lot of duality. We have two systems of healthcare. We have two systems of education. We need to return to one system in those departments and also create more harmony amongst the different languages in the province. We can streamline the civil service. We're very top-heavy there. We need to hold Crown corporations accountable. If they make poor decisions, somebody needs to come good for that money that they've mismanaged. And lastly, we need to implement all the suggestions from the Auditor General. Her job, and she does it very well, is to show where we can have financial savings and income. And of course, if we implement what she's saying to us, I think that'll help us a ton.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you. Everybody's respecting the time quite nicely, so we're going to move through some questions. We're now moving on to number 3. So, Brad, you will be the first to start on this next question. So, Brad, what is your position on a year-round ferry service for Campobello?
A year-round ferry service for Campobello, I believe, is something that's necessary, especially during these current times. It's not like if it's safe for our friends in Campobello to drive through Lubec and head on up through here. So right now, that's the only real safe passage, weather permitting, the only safe passage to get from island to island and then to here. So I believe that year-round ferry is the best route to take. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, what is your position on a year-round ferry service for Campobello?
Thank you. It is one of the main questions in the riding, isn't it? So the Campobello ferry issue must be decided by the people of Campobello. We can't tell them what to do. It's their future. So, but what is most important in this context is that all residents have the same information to be able to make the decision. They all agree to the questions being proposed about the desire for the year-round ferry. If Campobello determines a year-round ferry from the mainland is warranted, then together we just need to determine what safety concerns there are. You know, the weather-related matters, is there crime-related matters, or security of people's homes? But if the residents deem the ferry is necessary, then, you know, we can work with them. We can work with them to support in a much improved and equitable manner. We need to talk about their basic needs: medical, food security, economy, as well as the social support so desperately needed for youth and for seniors.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, what is your position on a year-round ferry service for Campobello?
I tend to agree with Kim Reeder. I think that the people of Campobello need to decide if they need a ferry. I heard from a previous councillor that a year-round ferry would cost $40 million. He said if the government has, or the governments, because it has to be a collaborative project, if they have that much money to spend, they would rather have it spent on affordable housing or perhaps a recreational facility on the island. What I'd like to see is a plebiscite in the next municipal election and ask that question on the ballot instead of depending on survey questions and answers. And I'd also like to see subsidies, perhaps, and an extended season. It costs $54 round trip to go back and forth to Campobello. And a lot of seniors can't afford that. A lot of regular people can't afford that. There's nowhere to buy gas on the island. If you want to get your groceries, you have to go to Lubec, or you take the ferry, go to Deer Island, go to the mainland, and go shop either here, St. Stephen, or in St. John. So I'd like to see the people of Campobello make that decision.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, what is your position on a year-round ferry service for Campobello?
I've handled this situation the same way I have everything else that I've done in my life as far as making the decision goes. First thing you need to do is investigate. And back in January, I met with the proponents of the ferry, and they gave me a long list of concerns that they had. And of course, that led me to talking to a lot of different people, calling the Maine DOT, New Brunswick DOT about the bridge, the state of the bridge, when it was going to be repaired. The mail carriers and what the issues were bringing mail back and forth across the border. The fishermen and what the seas are like during the winter months. I've been to Grand Manan lots, but what's the seas like amongst the islands? And most importantly, the residents. I spoke to hundreds of residents, and based on what they've said, my solution would be to actually take the ferry service we have and extend it from April to November and run it the way it is now, and also to subsidize it. We have ferries running in the province everywhere, and they're actually not for necessity, they're actually for convenience, and the public do not have to pay a fee for those ferries. My suggestion is we do the same thing with the Deer Island Ferry. Islanders should be on that ferry for free.
So, John, what is your position on a year-round ferry service for Campobello?
Having talked to a number of the islanders, the truth is, since 9/11, we have seen the borders tighten down, and tighten down. Really, with what's going on right now with COVID, this is more or less the last straw. We need to support the island, and we also need the island, it's not a one-way street. What I'm hearing is that we need to be providing them with safe, secure transportation. I'm not going to say it would be from one island to another, but we need to provide a route. We need to provide seasonal ferries more in the summer, maybe less in the winter months, but that ferry needs to be there. And that's what both myself and Mr. Vickers has agreed to. We are supporting Campobello on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to question 4. For this one, we're going to start with Kim, Kathy, Rod, John, then Brad. So Kim, you get this question first. and that is, what will you do to ensure access to health care for the residents of this riding?
This is an issue close to my heart, and I do need to clarify something. It is the Green Party's position that a Campobello ferry is supported, and that is part of the health care question. There's a lot of communities here doing really good things, great things for the economy, some great things for the environment. Healthcare is somewhere we have fallen behind. For example, there are people, nonprofit organizations, who are doing their best for the preventative methods for community health care. I am extensively involved in delivering a program for 200 seniors of the riding. And right now, prevention is a good part, but we need community health care centers. We need them with a mix of professionals, mental health care. We need nurse practitioners. We need doctors, and we need dietitians. There's so much need in this community for healthcare, so we need to come at the problem from both ends, the preventative and being here when we do get into an emergent situation.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, moving on to you. What will you do to ensure access to health care for the residents of this riding?
Thank you, Mike. I'm already working, or have been already working, with the Charlotte County Hospital Foundation on access to health care. I had Health Minister Ted Fleming here just last week to discuss with Board Chair Steve Backman the continuation of services at the Charlotte County Hospital. What they're proposing is, what Ted is proposing, and Steve has agreed, is a 10-year strategic plan to be developed for the hospital, and that could include the expansion of services, utilizing the hospital better, not just putting something in a room because the room is available. Perhaps reopening our operating room for minor surgeries so that we can get the backlog of surgeries, major surgeries, reduced at the major hospitals. So improving access to mental health, to supportive services, as Kim has mentioned, and to keep our hospital a viable entity in this community is something that I would work very hard for.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, on to you. What will you do to ensure access to health care for the residents of this riding?
That's a lot to pack into a minute, because it is a huge issue. It's where most of our budget is spent in the province. Biggest thing I think, sometimes the best thing government can do is actually get out of people's hair. We have a lot of great and smart people here in this riding that are doing great things in healthcare. I've spoken with Teresa Como at the hospital, all the seniors' homes in the area, and Steve Backman, and they have a great idea for what we can do to actually improve things here. I don't think, as the minister has promised, we need to, there be no change at the Charlotte County Hospital. We need to improve that. We need to remove the idea that centralizing all of our health care is a wise way to go. In New Brunswick, we're a rural province. We need to actually do health care and plan that next 5-year strategic plan in Horizon Health and in Vitality Health with that in mind, not in moving everything to the central part of the province. Thank you.
Rod? John, what will you do to ensure access to health care for the residents of this riding?
Healthcare has long been one of my subjects. Everybody in the riding knows where I stand on the hospital, not just keeping it open, but revitalizing it. Right now, as we come through COVID, we've seen backlogs being added to like nobody knew. We need to be using our rural health services right across the province and right across all of the spectrum to cut back on the backlogs. The regionalization of healthcare hasn't worked. We need to be using every bit of infrastructure we have, and that includes our rural hospitals, that includes Charlotte County Hospital. Not just save it from closure, but to revitalize. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, what will you do to ensure access to health care for the residents of this riding?
Well, healthcare is something that the New Democratic Party knows a little bit something about. Tommy Douglas invented Medicare back in the 1950s. So something that we plan to focus on is to create a comprehensive plan for New Brunswick's healthcare system that is developed in consultation with both the key stakeholders and especially with the public. We're looking to establish a new program in ERs to address non-urgent patient needs. We are looking to lower specialist wait times and aim to meet the Canadian average by the year 2030. We're looking to improve access to mental health issues because that's healthcare too. Mental health is very important, as we're all finding, especially during this pandemic. And then, of course, there's support risk reduction programs to combat addictions, including safe injection sites, and to publicly fund the Sexual Health Clinic 554 in Fredericton, and that's something that applies to us here in St. Croix as well, because there needs to be a safe place for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, moving on to question number 5 now, starting with Kathy, Rod, John, Brad, and then Kim. So, Kathy, first up, if elected, how will you improve the lives of the seniors in our riding?
Well, I think Kim's been doing a pretty good job with that for the last few years, improving the lives of seniors. Our seniors have almost become forgotten citizens, and we need to focus on better care, and that's never been more evident than during this pandemic, and the issues with visiting in seniors' homes and with seniors living in their own homes. My mom's 89. I have to call her every night at 6:30. That's my allotted time because she's a busy lady, but she's one of the fortunate ones. She lives in a lovely apartment and has neighbors around, and they all get together. But there are a lot of seniors here that in this riding that need help and that need assistance. So we need to find out who those seniors are. We need to find out what their needs are, or I do, and more of them, and address those needs.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, if elected, how will you help improve the lives of seniors in our riding?
Again, I think there's lots of great programs already going in the riding, and I'm a big proponent of working together. So obviously continuing those programs and giving them help where they need. I've heard from a lot of seniors in the riding, and there's things happening right now that they're very concerned about. Some income that seniors are receiving from the government actually has declined in the last little while. And of course, at a time when they need it most, they're on a fixed income, and of course, our costs aren't going down. Costs are increasing. Food costs are increasing. Healthcare costs are increasing, and these people need help. They've been forgotten. What I would do, I would start an advisory committee. I'd like to get some seniors in the area together on a regular basis, meet and talk about what their issues are, and actually brainstorm for ways to come up and actually improve those conditions. So I'm all about listening to the people, finding out what their problems are, and working on real solutions to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. John, if elected, how will you help to improve the lives of seniors in our riding?
When my mother was living, she was all about the seniors. And trust me, her little old ladies were the big thing for her. Now, she's obviously gone, but the seniors still are around. And we've got more of them every day. We need to be supporting our seniors. We've got some great services that are already going on here. We need to keep those going. We need to work with all of the organizations that are already doing great things. And the Garson Center has several projects running right here in the building, at least before the COVID. We need to continue that. We need to also give them more support through government services such as social development and also through the health department. They need every bit of help we can give them. They deserve it. That's what I would do.
Thank you, John. Brad, if elected, how will you help to improve the lives of seniors in our riding?
Seniors in our riding are obviously a very important piece of the puzzle. They founded the way for us. They found the way for us to get to where we are now as a society. They strengthened us. So something that the NDP is focusing on is to end the privatization of our healthcare system. We will return to the extramural program and telecare to the province to be run as public institutions, and we will do the same with Ambulance New Brunswick. We're looking to create a new government agency, home care services to provide affordable homes, support services for seniors, and just so that they can get more help at home where they really need it. And we're going to study the best way to create a community care public agency to replace hundreds of agencies that currently exist. So this would improve accountability and transparency, create uniform standards, and allow home care workers to become public servants. And then also just to make sure that I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Kim, if elected, how will you help to improve the lives of seniors in our riding?
I didn't wait till I am going to be elected. I started a long time ago. And one of the things seniors need in our riding is joy. And it's a really easy thing to provide, and we have the moral responsibility to provide it, to provide respectful, high-quality care for seniors. We need in-home supports. We need more of that. We need alternative housing arrangements. We need to increase funding to nursing homes. It's got to be at least 4 hours of senior care. We cannot have any more profit nursing home. It just doesn't work. We need to look at dental and audiology for seniors, and we need respite for caregivers. The caregivers are the backbone of our care for seniors.
Thank you, Kim. On to question 6. This is a very specific question that affects many of the people in our riding, and it's a question that I've asked at this event before. So I'm so glad to see this one each time, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the responses from the candidates on what they think they can do to improve this. So the question has to do with access to internet. So we're going to start with Rod, John, Brad, Kim, and then Kathy. And question 6 is, what is your plan to improve access to the internet in our rural area? Starting with you, Rod.
I think Kim is right, just to go back to the seniors issue, that they need joy, and that's why I've spent time at every seniors home in the riding playing my guitar. They're putting up with me, and I'm having fun playing for them. Internet access is a big one. I've heard that especially on Campobello Island, and also in the rural areas, especially right now where we're relying on internet for schooling. This has become a very paramount issue in our riding. I don't pretend to know everything about internet access, but I do know that it's actually provided by private companies. But I think if they don't have the money to get the towers and the contacts that we need in the right areas, that government needs to step in, especially where we're relying on it for our education system, and actually provide the funds to get more towers, more of whatever we need in the internet system so that we have fast and reliable service. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. John, what is your plan to improve access to the internet in our rural area?
I live in the heart of the riding, but I've heard from Campobello and I've heard from McAdam, both ends of the riding. And access to reliable, high-speed internet just isn't happening in anywheres except for the major centers. We need to work with not just one company, but several companies to provide a competitive environment for them to roll out more high-speed internet. We need to be working on the new technologies and the new developments to get that out, especially now where so many people are working from home and we are going to have our kids going back to school, some of it virtually. Yes, we need to be improving, not just for everyone else in the riding, but for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, what is your plan to improve access to the internet in our rural area?
Hello, as the millennial, how are you? So internet. It's 2020. How do we not have internet everywhere now? We all use Facebook way too much. We all use Instagram an obnoxious amount. This is something that everyone needs to have access to, especially now that schooling has to take place at home. how are they supposed to learn from home if there's no Wi-Fi, if they still have to listen to the modem and then they can't use the phone? And it's 2020, people. Come on, we need internet. Let's do it. Thanks.
Brad? Kim, what is your plan to improve access to the internet in our rural area?
Well, I'll echo some of the comments of my running mates here. The internet, it's not just Facebook. It's not just Netflix. It is the basis of the way we do economy in New Brunswick. But community needs can be delivered by community. And I think this is part of the answer to our economic question as well. Community services, we can do this. They do it in many parts. Grand Manan has a version. Ontario is full of these types of things. But we have to have access to the fiber optic internet service and computers provided by our schools to our students who rely on it. And also, virtual healthcare services have been a support during COVID. And that can maybe be a partial answer to getting the specialists at our community and rural healthcare centers.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, what is your plan to improve access to the internet in our rural area?
Access to the internet in rural areas. There have been a couple of contracts already signed. Unfortunately, I don't think one of them was for our area, but I'm still working on that. Internet right now is vital. This is the new normal. If students are going to be needing to access the internet to be homeschooled, we need it. Most of us, we're working from home. We do our paying our bills. We do e-transfers. And one thing with the internet too, with telehealth appointments, you can have an appointment now with your doctor over the internet. So we need to definitely improve access to the internet, and I will work very hard to do that here in St. Croix.
Thank you, Kathy. Moving on to question 7, which is related to question 6 in many ways. We're going to be going John, Brad, Kim, Kathy, and then Rod. So John, you're up first. Our kids are heading back to school soon. What is your opinion on the present plan by the Department of Education?
The plan has a few holes in it. We need to be able to keep our kids safe. We really dropped the ball by calling an unnecessary election in the middle of a pandemic just as our kids are going back to school. Hate to say that, but it's true. We need to be consulting daily with the department. We need to hear what their plan is. And right now, because there's a lot of kids, especially in rural areas like St. Croix, that don't have the technology, that don't have the internet, we need to be doing much, much more to keep our kids safe. And that's really what needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, our kids are heading back to school soon. What is your opinion on the present plan by the Department of Education?
Education is something that's very important, and former New Democrat Dominic Carty, current Minister of Education, I believe he's done well considering it's a pandemic. It's not like if there's a book for this. I hope there's not a book for this, but if there was, I think he's doing well so far. Obviously, there's things that can be improved. Obviously, there's things that are going ship-shape, but as long as we can get access to internet for all the kids that have to learn at home, then I think that's all that we can really ask for right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Kim, our kids are heading back to school soon. What is your opinion on the present plan by the Department of Education?
I do have to echo John's comments regarding the calling of the unnecessary election when a minority government had been working so well during COVID with the committees, which changed. But I also think we need to not move quite so fast. We're adding a lot of stress to families and to the youth and to the children, extended families. And I think we also need to engage people like Rod Cumberland who have homeschooled and probably have a lot of good knowledge to share with us.
Kim? Kathy? Our kids are heading back to school soon. What is your opinion on the present plan by the Department of Education?
I think the present plan has been well thought out, and I just want to remind everybody, this plan was not made by politicians. The guidance for this plan was provided by medical doctors and by public health. I've spoken to some teachers, and they're quite anxious to get back in the classroom. I asked them, do you feel safe? Are you comfortable? And they said yes. It's a big adjustment. It's scary. It's concerning. I've spoken to some little children, and they're kind of eager to get back. The kids need the structure. And yes, calling an election in the middle of a pandemic was not Blaine Higgs' first choice. He was willing to continue to work with the all-party committee, but unfortunately, Mr. Vickers decided not to cooperate. The other two parties did, and we thought we were going to continue in that vein. But I think that the education plan is a sound one, and it will evolve as our knowledge evolves about the pandemic and the situations that the kids find themselves in.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, our kids are heading back to school soon. What is your opinion on the present plan by the Department of Education?
I just want to return to the internet question because I also want to remind people, and what I would do if elected is remind the government that a lot of seniors don't have internet access, and yet we're providing a lot of things and expecting people to do things on the internet. So we need to keep some of the old systems so that those people have access. With education, there's a lot of balls in the air, and there's a lot of anxiety around that. We've done a great job with COVID. Thankfully, there's very few cases here, and I know that I've heard from a lot of people that some of the requirements are a little bit overboard for where we're at. We do need a plan. We need a safe plan in case there is an outbreak. We need to adjust our methodology when that happens, but we need to return to some semblance of normality for the lives of the kids and for the situation that we're in with most families where both people work. So we do need to do that, and it will be an evolving plan. I do agree with that we need to keep looking at how things are going and evolve as we see things change. But one thing I will say is that fear is no place to make a wise decision. So I think we need to make wise decisions based on facts, not on fear.
Thank you, Rod. Question 8. This one will go Brad, Kim, Kathy, Rod, and then John. This is a bit of a different type of question, but it has primarily to do with how you will be if elected, how you will deal with a difference of opinion from one's party. So it's towing the party line is essentially the question's core. Here's what it is, Brad. How would you manage a different personal or local opinion versus your party's position?
It's a solid question. Let's see if I get in trouble from head office after this. So I'm being elected by the people of St. Croix. These are obviously the people that matter. It's you. You're the ones that matter. It's your opinion. You chose me. Who knows why, but you chose me. So let's serve you. I've been serving this community for a third of my life now. I've been, like I said earlier, I've been helping you at the grocery store. I've probably helped you do the bank draft for your first car, and I've probably cut your hair before you went off to university. Like, I know you. I'm here to help you. It's you. It's always been you. Thanks.
Kim, under that same light, how would you manage a different personal or local opinion versus your party's position?
Well, I think that the Green Party, and it's been proven, and that's the thing, is we do have a track record in legislature, and the Green Party wants us to represent our constituents and our region and our riding. So it's pretty straightforward. In regards to my personal opinion, you've heard me already say, I listen, I hear, and I'm pretty used to voting systems in the way I work with when we do seniors programs at home If I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted. And we just move forward with the right decision.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, you're up on that same difficult question of how would you manage a different personal or local opinion versus your party's position?
Mike, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I have my opinion, but my opinion isn't the one that counts. It's the opinion of the people. I've had over 40 years of dealing with people from various walks of life, and believe it or not, I've run into people with different opinions from me, and you just deal with people respectfully. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and you have to respect that, whether you agree with that or not.
So, Rod, how would you manage a different personal or local opinion versus your party's position?
I've been waiting for this question because this is a question where the People's Alliance shines. Our party was formed to provide the people of the province with input on every vote. Typically in the legislature, when there's a vote that comes forward, people vote along party lines. We had a free vote on Bill 11, and it was surprising that all of a sudden the MLAs could actually vote their personal perspective or their riding's perspective. When I asked Chris, I said, I know a lot of great people in this riding, and I'm not going to Fredericton to represent them if I can't vote for the riding. And he said, that's what our party's founded on. So on every single vote, I'm able to actually represent the riding, and that's the whole reason I'm going there, to provide that real representation, not just every 4 years when we actually have a say in what's going on in the legislature, but every time we vote. So that's what I can offer with the People's Alliance, and I'm glad to be able to represent them that way.
Rod? John, how would you manage a different personal or local opinion versus your party's position?
My opinion is that Campbellton should not be telling Campobello what to do. When I first sat down with the party leadership to agree to this, the first thing I said was, I would represent St. Croix. That's still my position, and it will be my position. You don't always have to vote party lines. You can vote for what you believe in. That's what I'm going to do regardless. And by the way, there is one thing I do want to just kind of clarify. Before the election was called, Blaine Higgs did have a signed agreement from Kevin Vickers, my leader, saying that there would be no collapse of the government. It was entirely Mr. Higgs' opinion, and it was entirely Mr. Higgs' choice, and he has said that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Question 9 is dealing with fisheries. So we'll be starting with you, Kim, then Kathy, then Rod, then John, and then Brad on fisheries. So Kim, what is your party's position on ensuring a vibrant and healthy fisheries?
I would assume it's the position of every party up here, is that is exactly our goal. But the thing is that that's not just marine fisheries, that's inland fisheries as well. And inland is the jurisdiction of the province. So in order to have these vibrant fisheries, we need vibrant environments. So that is where the work needs to happen. And it's happening on the Scudic already, the St. Croix. We have millions of dollars worth of investment, not necessarily all in cash, but we have people who have been working on that river for years to restore it so that we can have exactly what you're talking about. Now, of course, the St. Croix isn't the only river in our riding, and there are many rivers that are in desperate need of a hand up and some protections, and that can happen because we have the momentum and we have the skills. Even with the simple example of just one employer doing river restoration, we have 7 students working in skilled labor, and they're not likely to leave anytime soon.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, what is your party's position on ensuring a vibrant and healthy fisheries?
Well, obviously, we want that to continue. I think we do have a viable fishery here in New Brunswick. And one of the things that I'm concerned about right now locally is the impact of a rezoning in Bayside and what effect that will have on the local lobster fishermen. There's going to be a plant, or a plant has applied for rezoning, business owner, of a gravel pit area in Bayside. And my question is, not all the facts are in yet, but I would like to know how that will affect the Fundy Fishermen's Association. I have a call into them to see how buying the lobster, will they be bringing in imported lobster? Will they be buying Canadian lobster? That owners have said that they would be buying Canadian lobster. Well, if they are, that's fine. But if they're importing lobster from United States, how is that going to affect our fishery? I'd like to know.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, what is your party's position on ensuring a vibrant and healthy fisheries?
It's an interesting question because I don't think any of the parties have specific platforms or mandates on fisheries specifically, but obviously we all want economic development and growth. No question about that. Fortunately, as a biologist, I began my career in Charlotte County working for Barry Calder and Billy Groom in the fisheries industry, and we did a tidal survey of Limekiln Bay and actually started getting the aquaculture industry off the ground, so I do have a fair bit of knowledge on the topic. However, I also would like to talk to the, I think one thing we need to do is provide opportunity for those people, and actually my plan is to be on a lobster boat this November in Campobello Island when they go out. It's just like Christmas Day there, and I want to be part of that. But there's some problems in the system, and one of those is actually making sure that we provide opportunity for our local people. And one thing that will cause a detriment is that we actually allow competition coming in here from another country. So the situation in Bayside is very problematic in my mind. It's not just a matter of moving it to the industrial park down the road, but I think for the 6 jobs it's going to generate, and I'm all for generating jobs here, but those 6 jobs are not worthwhile putting our entire fishery at risk.
Thank you, Rod. John, what is your party's position on ensuring a vibrant and healthy fisheries?
I am the first generation out of 8 in my family that is not involved in fisheries, which really says something. It means that the fishery is declining. We need to keep our fishery, particularly our traditional fishery. The other thing is I'm going to echo the comments of my colleagues. Bayside is an issue, and the rezoning there shouldn't happen, especially when we are not certain as to where those lobsters are coming from. We need to protect our Canadian market. We need to protect our Canadian fishermen. That's what I am committed to, is protecting the local traditional fishery as well as the aquaculture industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Brad, finishing with you. What is your party's position on ensuring a vibrant and healthy fisheries?
On ensuring healthy and vibrant fisheries. Well, working at the financial institution that I work at, I've noticed quite a few people are coming in with their deposit books from fisheries. It's a big part of St. Croix. It's a big part of Wilson's Beach. It's a big part of Bayside. It's a big part of Campobello as a whole. We need to protect it. We need to make sure that it's as safe as it can be for them, that it's as vibrant as it can be for these good people in this field, and that we need to just keep on shucking. Thanks.
Moving on to question 10. We're going to start with Kathy, then Rod, then John, then Brad, and then Kim. And this question has to do with economic development. So starting with you, Kathy, what do you feel are the main economic development opportunities for this riding?
I think one of the main economic development opportunities for this riding is tourism. We have so many delightful places to visit and see, and there's a lot of projects underway right now. For instance, just the trail completion or the paving of that trail to link the trail from the United States with the rest of the Trans-Canada Trail. I know when that was first discussed, they could see St. Stephen as a hub. People use that trail for biking, for well, not camping, but when they're biking, they can they were thinking of using the Civic Center as a stop-off spot, but of course that was all pre-COVID plans. But I really do think we have a lot of tourism opportunities. We've got Minister's Island, we've got all kinds of things on Campobello, and we need to promote that.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, what do you feel are the main economic development opportunities for this riding?
I actually, talking to all the people across the riding, we do have really, really unique tourism opportunities. I've traveled the world, I've been to Europe a lot, and actually the economic development through tourism is unreal, and we have a huge untapped resource here. Especially with COVID, people aren't traveling internationally, so why not bring people in this country to the origins of our country? St. Croix Island, we have the train station in Macadam, we have the oldest basketball court in the world, we have the oldest operating power dam, we have Minister's Island that's all been refurbished, and why don't we tie those all together? If we tied them all together into a package, you need at least 3 or 4 different attractions to bring people off that highway. And if we package that right, and I've got a real passion for that. I talked to Futures New Brunswick the other day, and I think we have a really solid plan to actually make this place vibrant again. We need that hotel downtown. Tommy, we need that thing going. So if we had all that, we have a real package, and that will draw people in from all across North America.
Thank you, Rod. John, what do you feel are the main economic development opportunities for this riding?
As an innkeeper with 30 years in the business, I'm really thinking tourism is one of our keys. Going across the riding, I'm seeing the numbers in Macadam are simply astounding, and that's with 2 attractions, the train station and a gun dealer. On the other end, we have Campobello. Campobello is not a national treasure, it is an international treasure. We really need to be the tourism gateway to Atlantic Canada. We've got the resources, we've got the history, and by the way, our history does not start in 1604. It starts way before then, and we need to develop that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, what do you feel are the main economic development opportunities for this riding?
The main economic opportunities for this riding, as someone that's worked in retail and customer service for as long as I have, and as long as I was at one certain area, and it was, and the entire time that I was there, I was still making minimum wage because it just kept inching up every time that I was supposed to get a raise for the amount of hours that I was working there. We need to raise the minimum wage. It has to be something that's livable, that we can actually afford groceries, that we can actually afford to eventually get a house and stop living in our parents' place, maybe, who knows. That we need to invest in our people, and the more that people get paid, then the happier they are, the harder they work, and then they have more money to put into the economy locally, and a high tide rises all boats. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, what do you feel are the main economic development opportunities for this riding?
Well, I do want to take a minute to say that this focus on tourism makes me a little nervous. As we know, in forestry and many other things we do, monoculture is not the way to go, so we need diversification. So we not only need tourism, we need to focus on other aspects as well. And we could take a note from Macadam, as a few of the folks have mentioned, and expand that model. They are continually, whatever they do, they are building above the standard, and it attracts people. We can build on our assets, we can build on our skills. We have specific cultural knowledge here that we can share. We need to support business. We need to change some business practices. We need to live within our ecological means. That is the basis of our economy. We need economy that is useful, accessible, and reliable.
Thank you very much, Kim. Question 11, we're moving on to the topic of newcomers. That's the subject here. And it's a very long one. We're going to start with Rod, then John, then Brad, then Kim, then Kathy. And the question is, starting with you, Rod, is if elected, what will you do to improve the experience for new residents in our riding to ensure that they want to stay in the riding of St. Croix?
This is an actual present situation. In meeting people in the riding, there's a lot of people that have just moved here from across Canada. Lots of people. It's surprisingly a number of people. And just last week I met with Kendall at Future St. Stephen, and it was really encouraging to hear all the things that he is doing, and to actually not only attract people to here, but actually to keep them here. He calls it the sticky factor. You know, when people get here, they need to be involved in the community. And that's not only a job for government, that's a job for all of us. And I think what I would do is come alongside of people that already see that issue and have good solutions and help them with it. Come alongside and make sure that the things that they see that can help the sticky factor, keeping people here, come to fruition. So I'm all about teamwork.
Thank you, Rod. So, John, if elected, what will you do to improve the experience for new residents in our riding to ensure that they will want to stay in the riding of St. Croix?
One of the things that I see is that when somebody chooses to come here, they've already been here, they've had a great experience, they've done their research. When they arrive and they decide that they're moving here, we need to continue on with that experience. We need to include them in activities. We need to be looking for things that they can do, and we need to be more welcoming. That's really what needs to happen.
Brad, if elected, what will you do to improve the experience for new residents in our riding to ensure that they will want to stay in the riding of St. Croix?
Well, as Rod pointed out, there has already been quite an influx of people coming here from places like Ontario and Quebec. They didn't feel safe where they were pandemic-wise, so then now they've come here because we're doing so darn well so far. So the best thing that we can do right now, in my opinion, is to just keep on doing the good work that we're doing with the pandemic, and keep on fighting it, keep sanitizing, wear your mask whenever you're able to, and just stay safe. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, if elected, what will you do to improve the experience for new residents in our riding to ensure that they will want to stay in the riding of St. Croix?
I think one thing we could do for those folks and people who have been here an awful long time is get our essential services over and above average. Build those up. There are places all over the world that because of services, people go there. They want to be part of a community that takes care of each other. We need also to really invest in the social programs and activities. That is something I've heard throughout the riding, is in the entire riding, is that people want to be engaged and they want a little bit of leadership in doing it. So preparing those opportunities, creating those forums for social engagement. The other main thing for new folks is public transportation. We have shovel-ready projects, and we need to get those rolling so that people, especially youth who we want to attract to our region, a lot of those folks are not interested in owning a vehicle. So we need to allow them, figure out how to enable them to get around the region with some public transportation.
Thank you very much, Kim. Last to you, Kathy, on this one, is if elected, what will you do to improve the experience for new residents in our riding to ensure that they will want to stay in the riding of St. Croix?
I've had a little bit of experience with this. When I worked at the newspaper, we were always welcoming newcomers to the riding, and the reason they moved here was because they were attracted by what we had to offer. And one of the things I know that the town council here and in other communities work very hard to do is to make sure that they are attractive to newcomers, that we have facilities, recreational facilities, that we have the educational facilities that people want, that we have healthcare and doctors and access to them. There was also a newcomers group here in St. Stephen that was very successful. There was a group of people who were welcoming to the newcomers, and they would organize suppers for them, let them know other people, get them to know the community. I think we need to do more than that. As John said, when people move here, they want to be here. So we need to make sure that they're welcome.
Thank you very much. Question 12 involves municipal and rural infrastructure. So this question is going to start with John, then Brad, then Kim, then Kathy, then Rod. So the question is, what will you do to increase federal and provincial funding for programs that affect our municipal and rural infrastructure?
One of the things that has happened in the last few years is the provincial government has been leaving money on the table. We need to be doing a better job of investigating, finding out what resources we can use, working through all levels of government, and bringing the money and the resources to improve our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, what will you do to increase federal and provincial funding for programs that affect our municipal and rural infrastructure?
That affect our municipal and rural. So something that the NDP is looking at is to support the rural communities. So they're looking to create a blueberry marketing board to ensure all fair prices of blueberries and cranberries, because blueberries, Tottenham's, they gotta be considered on the same playing field as the ones down in California and places like that. To pass legislation to empower the woodlot owners marketing board to redress the bargaining imbalance between the large forestry companies and private woodlot owners and reopen the Forestry Act. And to declare a moratorium on rural, nope, that's not it. Sorry. And then require all public institutions, including hospitals, schools, and correctional centers, to adopt a Buy in New Brunswick food policy. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Kim, what will you do to increase federal and provincial funding for programs that affect our municipal and rural infrastructure?
I happen to have a lot of experience in infrastructure and asset management. And there's two things. When we talk about infrastructure and asset management, a lot of the times people only think of our built infrastructure. We've got to also consider our natural infrastructure. And that is tending to be the trend of where people want to invest. Our infrastructure, we have a huge infrastructure deficit in Canada and New Brunswick, and no one wants to throw good money after bad. So what we need to do is have a plan, but the plan needs to also incorporate what we're going to do to adapt to climate change. So if we get the plans in, then money will flow. But if we're competing with all the other Canadian communities for infrastructure money, which we are, we need to start looking at our natural infrastructure, and we need to start getting ready to hand a plan out that covers risk.
Thank you very much. Kathy, what will you do to increase federal and provincial funding for programs that affect our municipal and rural infrastructure?
Well, the first thing I do is I need to hear from the municipalities and the LSDs on what they consider priorities in infrastructure. And once I know what those needs are, I can then work to explore what funding is available for them.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, wrapping up with you on this one. What will you do to increase federal and provincial funding for programs that affect our municipal and rural infrastructure?
The biggest thing I'm going to do is communicate. I have actually met with all the mayors, Stanix, McEachran, Naish, and still waiting on Mr. Newman, but they've got some really great ideas for their municipalities. And their biggest frustration right now is dealing with government, the lack of government involvement, the lack of actually getting things done, moving out of the way, moving the red tape out of the way, and allowing those guys to actually implement their ideas. And I think that's what we need to do. The other thing we need to remember is this is a rural riding. And of course, the municipalities have plans for them, but we need to coordinate a plan with the LSDs. Most of the infrastructure that's in bad shape is in rural areas. So we can't forget them while we're trying to address the needs of the larger municipalities. That's where we need a lot of help with infrastructure.
Thank you very much. Moving on to question 13. This will be started with Brad, then Kim, then Kathy, then Rod, and then John. So this question has to do with the double taxation system. So starting with you, Brad, what is your position on the double tax system for properties where the owner is not the primary resident?
Double taxation, and this is something that I can't find it. That's fine. Double taxation is something that I that I believe has been on the mind of a lot of people for a while now. It's not fair to the residents, and we really need to try to keep money in their pocket as much as they can, because we don't need to take. We don't need to take. We need to give. We need to give. So double taxation, bad. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Kim, what is your position on the double taxation system for properties where the owner is not the primary resident?
I think we need to have some tax reform, for sure. In order to adequately fund public services, we need a tax system that ensures everyone, both individuals and companies, contributes their fair share. So the question really speaks to that. We need to definitely launch an inquiry into our tax system, including property taxes, offshore accounts, taxation of large inheritances, estate taxes, as well as a fiscal policy on the extraction of natural resources. But we do not need to be adding the burden to the individual homeowner. We need to look at things like abolishing government funding, grants, tax credits, loans to companies that use tax havens to avoid paying taxes in New Brunswick.
Thank you, Kim. Kathy, what is your position on the double taxation system for properties where the owner is not the primary resident?
Well, this issue was set to be addressed before COVID, when we were in a surplus, or when the government was in a surplus budget situation, but it had to be put on hold. There are plans to reintroduce it. That situation is putting unnecessary stress, I think, on business owners who may have apartments, and to the apartments, to the tenants themselves.
Rod, what is your position on the double taxation system for properties where the owner is not the primary resident?
Again, another great question for the People's Alliance Party. Tax reform is huge in our platform, and the double tax specifically. Obviously, if you look at the tax system, it actually makes sense for medium to high-end apartment buildings, but the way the tax system is now, middle to low income, and actually if you look around Charlotte County and the southern part of York County, we know that affordable housing is a huge issue. The double tax is the problem to that. It's cost so much, the developers actually can't afford middle to low income housing, and it also is passed on to the people that actually want to get something and rent at that level. So we're all about abolishing the double tax, if you read our platform, and that's exactly where we stand on that issue.
Thank you, Rod. John, what is your position on the double taxation system for properties where the owner is not the primary resident?
We have a couple of problems with the property taxes. First off, the Higgs government raised taxes on 244,000 assessments. Now add on a double taxation to that and we've got some real problems. The other issue is that when you're taxing double on a property that the owner is not the resident in, the biggest problem for low income is a lot of low income people don't own their home. That's putting an unnecessary strain on the low income people, and we need to correct it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We've reached the point of the last question. You guys have been on the hot seat incredibly well. You guys have answered 13 extremely difficult questions in which you were not given the answer. You weren't given the questions ahead of time. They were on the spot. You showed integrity and you showed kindness to each other and respect. So this has been outstanding. So we're going to end our last question, question 14. You're going to make this question your own, essentially. But the question, the way it was asked, it's very open, and I'm looking very forward to hearing each of your responses to this very interesting question. So we're going to start with Kim, and then Kathy, then Rod, then John, then Brad. Then we will be moving on to closing arguments and closing comments. So the question is, for you, Kim, is what do you feel is the most important issue facing the residents of this riding, and what will you do about it if elected?
There are so many important issues. However, what we need is good representation. We need, as you've seen here tonight, we have so much common ground. So one of the things we need to do, not only at this level, but at the local level as well, is to work together. We have common ground, and we have the collective intelligence to solve these issues. So no matter what it is, we need good processes in place. That means good governance. What do we do with some rural and municipal reform? That will help us move forward in answering any question. So we need some good processes in place to make this area thrive, and it will happen.
Thank you very much, Kim. Kathy, what do you feel is the most important issue facing the residents of this riding, and what will you do about it if elected?
Well, I have to agree with Kim. She's a smart lady. I think the most important issue in this riding is to get representation back in Fredericton. As far as the other issues, I think a lot of those depend on where you live. If you live in St. Stephen, you might be worried about the decommissioning of the dam. If you live in St. Andrews, you're worried about the deer cull. If you're living in Campobello, you're thinking about a ferry. And if you're in Macadam, you're worried about the closure of the gypsum mill. So I think we need representation and then someone to take care of all those other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Rod, what do you feel is the most important issue facing the residents of this riding, and what will you do about it if elected?
Once the election is over, I'm pretty sure that we're going to solve the representation issue, because we will finally have an MLA that actually is active in Fredericton on our behalf. There are a lot of issues, and right now, of course, the primary and paramount on most people's mind is actually addressing COVID, adjusting to it as we head into the school systems. However, I do think that the number one issue is getting public input into government decisions and how that happens. How do we find out from the public? Because at one time we did that very well, and we've slipped on that terribly. The second thing is seniors. I think seniors have been neglected, and we need to start something. What I would do is start an advisory committee, have some seniors sit on that and actually provide good advice to me on what their issues are and what the solutions are. And obviously also economic development, and I think a complete overhaul of the Crown Lands and Forest Act would really give us that are rural and where we've relied on forestry for so long, another kick at that cat and provide opportunity for our rural residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rod. John, what do you feel is the most important issue facing the residents of this riding, and what will you do about it if elected?
This riding is diverse. Every area of the riding, whether it be the four major communities of Campobello, Macadam, St. Andrews, St. Stephen, or whether it be the ridges and hollows, we need to be looking at all of those, but the only way we're going to do that is to get representation. We've been without representation since Greg died almost a year ago. We need to move on, we need to get it done, and we need to be there at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brad, we're going to end with you on this question of what do you feel is the most important issue facing the residents of this riding, and what will you do about it if elected?
Well, while I agree with my colleagues here that representation is very important, something that is just as important, but maybe even a little bit more important, is that is the price of pharmaceuticals. It's going up every single day. Everything is becoming slowly more and more expensive. So something that the NDP is looking at, just like we founded Medicare back in the 50s, something that we're looking to introduce is called universal pharmacare. And so what we're looking to do is so that it's pretty much that everyone has insurance for the pharmaceuticals, like if they had it through their job, right? But like it's just from living here. It's made in New Brunswick, and it's just a way so that people aren't spending hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars just to live comfortably every month. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. In all of my years of doing this, I have never seen this level of respect for the timeline. I couldn't be more pleased with all of you tonight. Thank you so much for answering these questions. This was not an easy endeavor for anybody here. You must have felt like you were on the hot seat. the entire time. But you answered it with great respect. You showed respect to one another. You showed an obvious love for this community, for this riding, and very, very impressive answers to each of our questions. So we're coming quickly to an end. As each of you, as per the rules of the evening, each of you will be given 3 minutes closing, and for that we will go the opposite direction in which we went last time. Opening was done by Kathy, then Rod, then John, then Brad, then Kim. This time we're doing the exact opposite direction. It's going to go Kim, Brad, John, Rod, and then Kathy. So that will be the closing order, and then we'll have closing comments by Katie McDonald. So if I could start right away, you've got a full 3 minutes. Once you hear your buzzer, if it takes a few moments to wrap it up, that's fine. So Kim, you have 3 minutes to close.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to do is thank all of you involved tonight. That includes the people in this room, the very few people spaced 6 feet apart, as well as my colleagues here, and all the sponsors, as well as the viewers at home. And it's not just the viewers, you are the voters, you are the voice. And if you're too young to vote, you can be an influencer. Likely, you already are. So I want to start with that. But I want to leave you with a few points and thoughts to consider. In this election, the Green Party has two priorities: to keep people safe and secure in the midst of a pandemic, but to balance that with personal freedom and level of risk. Risk assessment is something New Brunswick tends to do well. Ask our EMO crews. They know all about it. The second thing is to lay out a green vision of what our province can become, building on our strengths and assets and collaborating with other areas when there's mutual benefit. The COVID-19 pandemic has shone a harsh light on the weaknesses in our ability to care for our elders, the fragility of our healthcare system, the limitations of our food supply, and the holes in our social safety net. And it is happening here. I've been seeing it with my own eyes and working for solutions with groups of people, local people. On the other hand, the pandemic has created also an opportunity and an opening for new conversation about the kind of society we want, the public services we expect our government to provide, and how we can meet the challenges of climate change. We need to prove, as a people of New Brunswick and as this riding, that our representatives need to prove that they can be trusted to deliver the kind of change we need. The Green Party is the real deal. We offer new vision, energy, commitment to the future of our province. We have policies that cover all the issues. We are the only party committed to placing the well-being of people and communities at the heart of government decisions while protecting the natural environment. It is time for you to express your choice. It's time to choose to do something differently. It's time to choose dignity, diversity, and dedication. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So, Brad, you have 3 minutes to close.
Thank you, Mike. You've been a great moderator, as unruly as we've been, and you've kept us in line, and I appreciate that. Hello again. This is the last time you have to look at me and hear me during this show. Isn't that exciting? I think it's exciting for you. I'm excited for you. So I've been working in the community for the last decade or so, and I've been on the front line. I've worked a minimum wage. I've worked my way up, but I'm still working 2 jobs. I know what it's like to be the working poor. I know what it's like to have to be home as little as possible just to try to put food on the table. And I feel for you. And those that do it, and I see you there, and I commend you for working 2 jobs. I've seen some of you wearing 2 uniforms in one day. Like that takes commitment and that takes dedication, and that shouldn't be ignored. I'm the youngest on this ballot. No shade thrown at anyone else. I thought John was 32 until earlier, and I'm possibly the youngest that's ever run in this riding. Has anyone fact checked that? No one's given me anything. That's fine. Youth, hello. How are you? So, I'm calling it to you. If we can mobilize the youth vote, we could really change something. We could really do something here. The pandemic has been a reset button on society, and we could really put fresh blood into the legislature, and we could really ride that old orange wave on through, like Jack used to say. I miss Jack. And make sure that you don't miss voting. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. John, you have 3 minutes to close.
First off, I have to say, 32, your quarter's in the mail. The other thing I want to say, and this is a serious note, is I'm from here. I've been from here. I've supported you. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with you. I know the struggles because I struggle too. I understand what it means to work in the riding. I've been doing it for years. I understand Macadam, where I grew up. I understand the coastal communities because that's where my family came from as well. We're all over this county. I work in one town, shop in another. This is who I am. This is where I am. This is what I've always been. I'm not going to change. If I'm asked to cross the party line, hand me a box of crayons because I'm changing the line. You need representation. That's what I'm going to offer. That's what I want for you to vote for on the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Rod, you have 3 minutes to close.
If CHCO does a great job editing, you're not going to see Vicki Hogarth running back and forth here cleaning this that she's done between every single speaker, but I want to thank her. Vicki, great job, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing. This election is about the person you look at in the mirror. You hold the keys to change. If you want different results from government, then you must try a different approach. If you choose to do the same thing you've always done or the same thing your parents have done, you're going to wind up with the same result. It's only when you choose to do things differently will you get a different result. Where's all the excitement in this provincial election? It's right here in St. Croix. Why is that? Why is all eyes on this area? What's happening here? St. Croix is in the process of making history. To choose the status quo or to choose change. Some have tried to make this election about one of 3 things: a party, a promise, or a person. Some people are looking for a promise. The promise of a ferry, a ban on glyphosate, or removing a dam. I would challenge you that the biggest reason that I've heard that people have for disillusionment in politics is broken promises. To move any of our issues that we've heard about here tonight in the right direction, we don't need a particular party or a hollow promise, we need a person. We need someone that brings respect to the negotiating table. We need a person that can research the issues and get to the bottom of them. We need a person whose hands are not tied by their party. We need a person with capability and resolve. We need a person we can depend on for an honest answer. We need a person who can present a solid case in a professional manner and firmly push for results. You have the freedom this time around to vote for a promise or a party, but you need to remember where that's gotten us in the past. In the past, when St. Croix has voted for a person, most don't remember much about the party or the promise. They just remember how good that person was, how hard they worked for the riding, and how they were treated. We are the poorest province in Canada. We have some tough decisions to make. To do that right, we need change. That's what I'm offering. Real change, real representation, reliable communication, hard work, and an honest answer. I'm Rod Cumberland. I'm the candidate for the People's Alliance Party in St. Croix. and I respectfully ask for your support on September the 14th. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come tonight.
Thank you, Rod. Kathy, you've got 3 minutes to close.
Thank you, Mike. Well, tonight you've heard a lot of opinions with a few facts thrown in there for good measure. It's up to you now to weigh the information presented and make the very important decision on which one of us will be the person who represents you in the legislature. I hope you will decide it's me. I'd like to thank the Chamber and CHCO for their work tonight, and I'd like to commend each of my fellow candidates who have appeared before you tonight for taking the tremendous step to offer for public office. It's not an easy job. I had a bit of a taste of what the job was like when I worked with Greg Thompson. Because of his illness, I often represented him at various functions and events, making presentations and bringing greetings. But that's only one aspect of the job. I put in countless hours of work behind the scenes, meeting with constituents who needed help with housing, food, jobs, finances, education, and the most frequent complaint, the condition of our roads. Groups and organizations with projects and plans often want the ear of the local MLA to help with their ideas. So working with Greg, I was often privy to some exciting ventures, many of which came to fruition. I take pride in knowing I helped those. My biggest satisfaction working in Greg's office was knowing I could help people with their issues. I was encouraged by how well all the ministers and their staff were eager to help with information and advice as well as action. We got things done. I want to continue that trend of getting things done. As I said in my opening remarks, we have a lot of issues on our plate. Whether the Milltown Dam will be decommissioned, whether Campobello Island will get a full-time ferry or an extended season with subsidies, whether economic recovery plans for Macadam will bear fruit in the next few months, whether property in Bayside will be rezoned to allow for the building of a lobster warehouse, and whether changes will be made for a successful deer cull in St. Andrews with meat going to the local food banks. Each of your local mayors and councils is working in your best interests, and I commend them for taking on this extra time to their 4-year mandate and carrying on business as usual to keep our community strong. We must maintain good relationships between federal, provincial, and municipal elected officials, working together, no matter the political stripe, for our communities. In closing, I'd like to remind you that before the pandemic hit, the PC government balanced the budget and paid down our debt. They canceled the Francophone Games when its budget jumped from $17 million to $130 million. They created an all-party climate change and environmental stewardship committee focused on all environmental issues. They doubled the amount of protected conserved land and fresh water in New Brunswick. They addressed skyrocketing work-safe premiums, reclassified paramedics to medical science professionals, and signed a 6-year contract with nursing home workers who have been so vital in taking care of our most vulnerable during the pandemic. Thank you for listening tonight, and please vote Kathy Bacchus. I'm up to the job, St. Croix.
Thank you, Kathy. We've now reached the end of our evening. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Katie McDonald, President of the St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce, to close and finalize the evening.
Thank you, Mike, and good evening. On behalf of the St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce and Deputy Mayor Brad Henderson for the town of St. Andrews who couldn't be here tonight, I'd like to thank the candidates for coming out tonight and answering questions on issues that are important to the members of our communities. I truly see the St. Croix riding as one big community, and I think it's important that we all understand the issues and struggles of each of our smaller communities so that we can work to find solutions to those issues together. Thank you to the St. Stephen Chamber of Commerce and the town of St. Stephen for inviting us to take part in this event, and I'm looking forward to our future collaborations. And last but not least, I'd like to thank CHCO, Charlotte County Television, for doing such a wonderful job covering the news of Southwest New Brunswick and this election for our riding so that our residents can be well informed and make the best decisions we can to represent what we want as a community. In closing, thank you to everyone involved for making this happen. Mike for being a fantastic moderator. And I know I learned a lot about the candidates tonight, and I'm sure a lot of you at home did as well. I encourage everyone to really think about what is important to you, your family, and your community, and then make sure to cast a vote. Go out and vote. Your vote really does matter. So vote for who you believe will best represent those things near and dear to you. Thank you all again. Thank you, St. Croix, for watching tonight, and good evening.